Hello, everybody. I appreciate you stopping by. And today I want to kind of just have a conversation. And let me ask you this question. Have you noticed that things just they don't feel right? That things are a little off? Yeah, it seems like people are angry, they're exhausted, they're disconnected from a life maybe that they had at one time. No one seems happy, for real. I think on social media, there's a huge level of fakeness, of putting up a front to let people know or to show people that they're happy and living a much better life than they really are. But, you know, it's, I've had a lot of conversations with friends, coworkers, people that I've come in contact with, and it doesn't take much before the conversation seems to go about how crazy this world is, wondering what's going to happen next. And it's like we all woke up one day and things shifted, but nobody can quite explain what happened. That's what I want to talk about today. So let's get this started. What I've thought about making this video several times, and it's very difficult to explain exactly what it is that is on my mind. But what I have seen are several other people on YouTube and elsewhere that have expressed the same thing, and it really comes down to something doesn't feel right anymore. There's just a growing number of people that feel like something's off. And they keep going back to previous times in their lives. For some of us that are a little bit older, a little bit grayer, maybe we go back to the 80s, 90s. I've even had some other younger people talk about the 2000s and that about how things seem so real. The word fun and an enjoyable life is often used and reflected on. I can remember back in the 80s, and I was a teenager, and even in the, excuse me, even in the 90s, as an adult who was working on careers and relationships and family, it it was just different. It was more wholesome. It seemed like experiences were more real. And when you compare that to today, and for the last several years, it's definitely different. I've had a few people mention that, oh, it's just you're getting older and you're missing some good times, and maybe that's part of it. But what I see are a lot of people at different ages that today they're not having those good times, or it's more difficult. And everything seems to be fake. And I think that's one of the things I really want to key in on. I referenced about how people put forth a facade on social media and they will try to make it look like that their life is different than it really is. They post pictures of them with people having a good time. It's always that they are trying to portray themselves in their life better than it actually is. Why is that? I think it's obvious, and feel free to comment below what your thoughts are, but it seems obvious to me that there's been some type of societal shift that has led people to believe that they're not good enough. That if they have struggles, they make mistakes, they screw up, that they are less of a person. And that's too bad. I think also that Hollywood and many in the media portray celebrities as this image that people can attain to, when you look at celebrities and how many problems they have, whether it's drugs and divorce and abuse, and it's just not, it's not good. And I think the absence of God and an understanding that we are imperfect creatures is also part of it. But I also hear a lot of people talk about how today they feel like they're going through the motions. They're not truly living. They get up, they do the same thing every day, they go to work, they're frustrated, they're stressed, they get paid, their money doesn't go very far, the inflation, the cost of living, everything is more expensive, and they're not really getting anywhere. And I will tell you that I understand that. And back in the 80s and 90s, I don't think it was that way. People were improving. They were constantly improving their lives. They were looking at getting healthier and doing better. And they were able to do that. And today, not that it's impossible, but it's more difficult. I also see people just don't smile the way they used to. People get, stressed and frustrated and show anger, the least bit little thing. You look at, I'm not going to get into a bunch of politics here, but you look at political movements and you look at the millions of people out there that are motivated to get involved in something that really has no impact on them and is not a positive thing. When you look at it from a perspective of stepping back, they're getting motivated to get involved and sometimes very detrimental to themselves, to take up a cause that has nothing to do with them and really defies common sense. Why do they do that? And maybe it's because they have no purpose in their own life, that it's this, lacking direction and lacking, I guess, light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know. Hopefully I'm making a little bit of sense here and you get what I'm saying. Things just don't seem real. The movies that are being put out today aren't real. It's all special effects and CGI, and some of them are very entertaining, but a lot of it is just, it's fluff. It's crap. TV shows. I go back to watching some old TV shows, Seinfeld and Friends, King of Queens, and I'm like, this is good entertainment. This is funny. And then you look at some of the stuff today and some shows that I was really looking forward to watching, and you see hidden messages in the background on billboards, in the discussions that people are having, the relationships that are occurring, even commercials. You could see there's hidden messages in there. And if you're awake enough, and I'm not putting down those that are not, it's just a level of awareness. And sometimes I wish I wasn't this aware. You may not see it, but if you do see it, it's disappointing that these messages that these agendas are purposely and constantly getting thrown at you, trying to guide your own belief system, which is quite different than traditionally what most Americans, I can only speak for America, have believed. It's it's something else. Yeah, there just seems to be less patience and less laughter, less joy, and this is not going to be any surprise, but you've got friends and families that are divided over beliefs, and I feel like that has been done on purpose. That it didn't happen organically. It's not like people evolved over many years to have such different opinions. I think it's forced. I think it's really pushed on people. Um, I think that this didn't happen by accident. I think that this was engineered, and there's all kinds of theories out there as to who is responsible, why it's being done, and one of the things that I will say is, to a certain extent, it doesn't matter because we are here, and whatever comes next is coming next, and you and I are just going to have to deal with it. Is there really anything we can do about it? What we need to do is take care of ourselves and those that are within our sphere of influence, those people that our friends, our family, our loved ones that we care about and that we can talk to and they can talk to us. And together we can try to travel through this time of what I think is impending chaos. You look back in the 80s and 90s and look at, kids were outside playing, drinking water out of garden hoses. And today it's all hand sanitizer. Don't put a sandwich in a plastic sandwich bag because of microplastics. And, there's so much attention to things that I'm not going to say that they're not important, but there are certainly things that are much more important. I don't know if you agree. Comment below if you do. And there's also a lot of people that are saying, I'm not saying this, but I'm also not saying it. You get what I'm saying? But that's something, it really changed around COVID, that we had that pandemic and it really changed everything. Even today, I see a lot of people wearing masks, and I'm not being judgmental on people that made decisions that they felt were best at the time. I made decisions, and lots of people made decisions that they felt were correct at the time. But look at today and all the information that's come out, and there's still people out there pushing boosters and they're pushing masks when reality is very much in your face and all the information's out there. This shouldn't be happening. But a lot of people are saying that a shift occurred around that time. Maybe that was part of why it occurred. There's certainly economic pressures out there. Things have gotten more expensive, a lot more expensive. And that's something I've talked about before, and I don't see it changing. I believe that inflation, cost of living, everything is going to continue to increase, and wages are not going to keep up. They're not. And prices are not going to come down. Yes, they will come down on individual items, but overall, things are going to remain expensive. and we need to prepare. I will tell you that as I look at things, I've used this analogy before, that it seems like things are getting more radical, more extreme, faster, kind of like rolling a snowball down a hill. It's going down the hill and it's picking up more and more snow, so it's getting bigger and bigger. But it's also getting faster and faster. And that's what it feels like, that whatever is occurring right now, that's what's happening. Things are getting more extreme, more radical, faster. It's civil disobedience, civil unrest, civil disturbances, violence, crime, the division within America, division within families, friends, society as a whole. It's not just two sides, it's many sides. And it's getting worse and worse. And I just wonder what it's going to be like by the end of 2026. And that's one of the reasons I do these videos and do some of the things I do, is because I want to send a message that we need to prepare. Well, what do we do about this? That's a big question. And I think we need to focus on our relationships, and I want you to get on YouTube and watch my videos, or go over on Substack and read my notes and different posts that I put. But getting off social media, I think social media has been so bad for society. But getting off, taking breaks, going to church, praying, meditating, reflecting on what's really, really important. I think that's a positive thing. Exercising. I just went out this morning, went out in the snow, and bought a universal weight machine off of somebody on Facebook Marketplace. Got a great price on it. It was a lot of work. Brought it home, put it in the garage. Now it has to be reassembled. But that's a step in the right direction. The world just didn't go crazy all of a sudden. It happened over time. And I see a lot of people, I use that term, waking up. A lot of people are beginning to realize what has occurred. And at least being aware that something and some things are occurring. And maybe together we can pull back a little bit, and we can reconnect with those things that are important. And then we can live deliberately. My channel is called Modern Exodus because, I think people need to move away from this society construct that has been pushed, that this is how people are supposed to live. You have a house, and it's right here, and 12 feet right next to it is another house with another family, and everybody's keeping up with everybody else, and they're buying the newest cars, and they're getting the latest game systems. They're keeping up with the Joneses. You've heard it. That's not happiness. And I think that's, if enough people wake up and they realize what is happening, they can take their own modern exodus and get back to a life that's closer, not perfect, but closer to how it should be and what makes them happy. So anyways, I appreciate you guys stopping by. Everybody's time is very valuable, and I really appreciate it when you take your time to spend with me. So stay safe, take care. We'll see you next time.
So I ran from the cities and the noise and lies, found a piece of ground under open skies, hands in the dirt, sweat on my shirt, learning what living's really worth. While crooked men shake hands in rooms, selling souls to corporate suits. Society's sick, but I found the cure. A back road life, honest and pure. They can keep their throne and their golden news. This life out here's my modern exodus. I traded screens for a sunrise, callous palms, blisters, pride, planted seeds where hope was.